Invocation by George Graham Currie. Read for LibriVox.org by Elaine Conway, England. Genius of minstrelsy, spirit of song, my life, my all, I'll consecrate to thee. With thy sweet winsome grace envelope me, make me thine own, for I have loved thee long. I do not ask to marshal conquering band, to victory or to fame enlaurelled tomb. I ask no riches, I could face my doom, though poverty stalked round on every hand. But God can witness how I fain would sing a note of comfort to the aching heart, a chord of hope no misery could thwart, a tune to lead gay youth in guileless dance, a lullaby for age of life's romance, a song celestial crowning honour king. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain. Side Lights on Man by George Graham Currie. Read for LibriVox.org by Elaine Conway, England. 1. As seen by the minister. Dear Christian brothers, who before me sit dressed up and aching in the pink of style, who when I weep, weep with me, and who smile with equal mimicry when I see fit, it gives me pleasure in my humble way to thank you for the holiness you don when I am with you. I can bear your yawn, remembering that through it truth makes display. When you are young, ere yet temptations sue, perchance I sometimes see your inmost heart, and sometimes too, when death his awful dart raises to strike your terrors make you true. But while the Lord lets healthy currents flow, you are the biggest hypocrites I know. 2. As seen by the doctor. Poor suffering creature, how the poet lies when he extols thee as a work divine. Could he, through glasses as undimmed as mine, behold thee groaning, he to truth might rise. Behind the mask that people know as man cringes a victim to someone destined ill. The seed is there that, when it blossoms, will cut short the trembler in life's little span. His pains, his aches, his trials and his tears, his shames, his sorrows, his consuming fears, laid bare expose him as but mortal clay, preying on beasts, while that on which he feeds in turn devours him and explains his deeds, and makes one wonder how so long his day. 3. As seen by the lawyer. Man, his heirs, successors, and assigns, to nature's first behest gives certain ear, and that he may himself preserve in cheer, to taunt his neighbours makes profuse designs. These said designs, consummately to hide, are called such names as interests and rights, and for these rights alleged a world he fights, and prays its courts his foes to override. It matters little who besets his path, his father David, or Philistine hordes. With Shylock wisdom he interprets words, and to the death maintains his selfish wrath. E'en after death, to cloud each title's flaw, he has conceived his chief design, the law. 4. As seen by the newspaper man. I've wondered often, as upon my way, my duty simply to collect the news, I've found but one sure course to glean men's views, if boasting was the habit of the day. And after years of wonder now at length I have decided that it is too true. For in my dealings with the favoured few, or with the mob bold flattery is my strength. In saintly garb, in pugilistic bout, in 4-inch collar, or in negligee, in men from London or from far Cathay, the ruling feature is the same way spout. Man's common failing lies within this hint. If you would please him, put his name in print. 5. As seen by the shopkeeper. Ach man, mein friend, come in and see dese tings. Dey was de very tings dat most you need. Come in, I love you very much indeed. You was von angel mit embroidered wings. Dis hat was gut, 'tis in de latest style. De King of England bought one just like dat. Oh yes, I know he's dead. He got de hat before he died. What makes you schmile? You want a coat? Take dis, it wears so veil in winter time. It keeps de cold right out. While in de summer, when de sun's about, no heat gets in. Dis fact I swear to tell. Not gut? Mein Gott! Unless you buy dese tings, you surely was von ass mit goose's wings. 6. As seen by the aristocrat. Ye howling mob, you fawning lapdog race, ye ingrate ignoramuses, attend. From off our lofty level we descend with magnanimity to prove your place. You are our slaves, we bought you with a price. Too high, 'tis true, but since 'tis paid, and we'll consent to keep you in the shade. From such a depth of course there is no rise. We ought to hate you for there have been fools who dared to think that we and you were kin, and from such madness rose the awful din. For manhood suffrage and for higher schools. But thanks to gold we have you yet in reign, and there we'll hold you quite beneath disdain. 7. As seen by his friend. He has his faults, but he has virtues too, and these so far outshine the little slips, that, take him in all, they quite eclipse, and show the sun as seen weak lunar through. Majestical besides aught else he stands. There is no beauty that is not his dower. Upraised with reason and with conscious power, all nature is a servant in his hands. Bravely he breasts misfortune's foaming wave, over its billows hear him even sing. He's often moved his very foes to save, while to his loved ones see him fondly cling. Man's sore temptations in the devil's plan are but this vengeance on the God in man. 8. As seen by his foe. Monster profound, whose every thought is guile, your chief delight is tearing others down. 'Tis when your zeal is careless that you frown. Your deadliest efforts are behind your smile, and yet 'tis certain that by malice tossed your courage oft your enemy appals. When on the elephant the lion falls, too like his valour to the human's boast, you are a savage that one must appease, nor cross till certain you are in our power, lest in the crossing our poor blood should freeze, and leave us helpless in that direst hour. Brute man, whose passions are your goad to art, your one perfection is your want of heart. 9. As seen by woman. My lord and master, my admirer too, my noble guardian and my minister, there is no praise but what sounds sinister when I am singing of my love for you. I dream about you ere you yet have come. I bear you with a pride I dare not show. Your playful antics as you age you grow Are with your other parts my pleasure's sum. As father you are worth personified, As brother you are comradeship complete, As husband there is naught so dear, so sweet, As son you are the hope for which I sighed. For you I labour and endure all pain, Since suffering for you is my greatest gain. 10. As seen by God. With one sole attribute to be maintained, Each other handiwork but man I've graced. But man within my universe is placed With attributes of all in one contained. The oak's grim strength, the frailty of flowers, Are but suggestive of man's multi-powers. The whole creation save in this regard Achieves its end within its little life. But warring powers in self-preserving strife Make man immortal as his fit reward. For strife continues until life and light Put death and darkness into endless flight, When, evil vanquished, man becomes divine, And one with me perfects my greatest design. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Woman in Her Infinite Variety by George Graham Currie. Read for LibriVox.org by NayaG. As seen by the poet. Daughters of Eve, of Trojan Helen's sex, Juno's ambassadors in every human home, with Cleopatra's power to ravish Rome and more, a man like Caesar to perplex. Thy traits I'd sing, yet vain will be my song, unless assisted by the winsome muse, whose woman's wiles will twist my sagest views, and use me that she may thy sway prolong. I know full well her proneness to such art. 'Tis useless to resist her arch desire. She never lent a poet of her fire, without demanding from the very start The tribute of his zeal for maiden worth, his championship of her who gave him birth. As seen by the misogynist. Velvety creature, whose delicious smile Make fools of men, within whose tightening arms We think no heaven can contain the charms That otherwise observed partake of guile. Thou art man's so-called peer, and yet his slave. He knows thee less than him, feels thee grow stale, Can prove though fair thou to art false and frail, But passion tossed such dangers still will brave. In every art he leaves thee far behind, Thou must grow mannish, or be science blind. As daughter, sister, wife, too closely scanned, Thy faults more naked than thy virtues stand. 'Tis but in fiction thou art aught divine, Thy lord's the sun that makes thy moon to shine. As seen by the lover. Sweet lovely woman, paragon of flowers, Standard of beauty and man's highest hope, With thee as guiding star he sped to cope And baffle every barrier to his powers. Thy frailty, thy delicacy warms. We love the very faults we think we see, Which proves that after all they cannot be false, But the savory fillip to thy charms. God bless thee, darling, make thee all his care, Increase thy radiance till the sun is dimmed, Trim thee as roses up in heaven are trimmed, And keep thee wholesome as the mountain air, For by such providence of thee soft made, Man too is lifted to a higher state. As seen by the other woman. Companion of my childhood, bosom friend, When youth suggested secrets all might know, Bright garden, where I see perfections grow so nicely, I forget they grow in sand. Sister, whose pretty face might rouse dislike, Were it unknown you could not help your faults, For mercy's sake, what attitudes you strike! Be careful, dear, your pose is like your waltz. How well you dress! Is that your last year's hat? Ah, really, I quite thought it looked the same. Been sickly, have you? Oh, that is a shame. It struck me somehow that you look too fat. Ideal being in the world's great plan, You surely are the sweetest, after man. As seen by the philosopher. Bone of man's bone, flesh of his mortal flesh, How truly woman's called man's other half. Within the net of home she is the mesh Of all that man creates, the willing staff. In infancy upon her yielding breast We lie and dream about her boundless power. Our childish rod, her frown, can make us cower, and of each early feat her smiles attest. Ripe age looks to her, and with clinging lip confesses all the balm she spreads so free. With ministering hand she tenderly smooths many a furrowed brow for its last sleep. The rose may wither when the summer dies, but woman ever blooms in manly eyes. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Democratic Doctrines by George Graham Currie. Read for LibriVox.org by Elaine Conway, England. Democratic Doctrines, as presented in the McKinley-Bryan campaign of 1900. All men are equal. All men are equal in the eyes of law, so said the sires who fought to make us free, and through the decades has that grand decree preserved a people from the tyrant's paw. But lo, the mass, forgetful of the cause of their great freedom and our country's might, are wavering and weak while greedy laws seek now to take away that equal right. In Puerto Rico and the Philippines, men are not men, some lustful leaders rave, and wailing winds moan o'er dividing wave the apathy of kindred to the awful signs. But winds are shifting, and a time may come when those dividing lines will rend our home. Practice what you preach. Bring back your arms from far Philippian shores. Why crush the spirit of that island race? What crime is theirs except the crime we trace back to our fathers and their children's doors? When we demand that we shall rule at home, it is a precedent for every land. And as we hope for right at our demand, so should we hear the pleas that to us come. Spain would not listen to the Cuban cry, till we in their behalf took up the sword. It makes a difference whose ox is gored, or else our Cuban war was all a lie. Behold! We wave our flag to free brave men that we may re-enslave them if we can. Are our motives pure? Can flattering unction and the glare of spoils so soon seduce our young republic's fame? Or is it glory without fear of shame that lures our troops o'er Asiatic soil? It is sheer virtue with no hope of gain, save but to free our citizens abroad, that men are dying on the foreign plain. And can we on their part implore our God? Would Washington, would Jefferson, if here confirm the message or unfurl our flag, and with land-grabbing allies strive to clear a path to Pekin, while home statesmen brag? A last pure test, could Lincoln's honoured shade be now invoked to lend invasion aid? Beware of militarism. In far-off Sparta in days best gone by, the grand ideal was to wield world power, and he who dared before a foe to cower by even mother love was doomed to die. This martial spirit so imbued the race that Spartans thought the sword their only tool, while Helots tilled the soil beneath their rule and were but slaves who held their lives by grace. Thus Sparta's glory was her greatest shame. Train men to arms and they, true toil to shirk, must still have Helot slaves to do the work. And Helot slaves mean death to every right, while warrior worship is the lurid light by which we see the way all Caesars came. Down with the trusts. Shall trusts usurp the presidential chair? Shall government be but the tools of God? Shall brazen pomp grow bolder and more bold while freedom fawns or crouches in its lair? Beware lest combines in this pregnant hour become so strong they can despise the vote that now exerted would upturn the boat wherein they sailed to certain sovereign power. Shall we protect these multi-millionaires and fill their coffers with the widow's mite? while they, unmindful of the orphan's prayers, reduce men's wages, and our firesides blight. Down with the trusts, or else we soon shall see America no more the land of liberty. Silver shall be free. Coin only gold, the Wall Street magnates cry, and loud the echo from the White House calls, while louder still throughout the Senate halls resounds the din that drowns the people's sigh. "'Tis true," they say, "once silver had its day, but that day's done, or wealth has lost its power. Wealth can't afford its money thus to shower on men who work on unkempt common clay. The poor were robbed by sleek long-headed stealth when silver first the law demonetized, but now in morals law has been baptized, and guards the thieves in their ill-gotten wealth. But right is might, despite the powers that be, and time is near when silver shall be free. Elect the Senate. What is this wealth that it should have a right in our young land above the rights of man? Is flesh so common in creation's plan that it must bow and scrape to lucre's might? Because our country once was free from class, our fathers dreamed not that it was a bane, and therefore made a senate to contain men who were not beholden to the mass. But we have learned that classes are a snare, and that a senator, else tried and true, is an aristocrat free men must rue. Since for their votes he has no vital care, elect the Senate and arrest its fall. Make lords of none, but honoured peers of all. The Monroe Doctrine. By God's great grace America is free. Her sovereign people own no upstart lord. They rule themselves, and with a ready sword will still maintain that glorious liberty. To pamper princes rouses all their scorn, to baffle kingcraft gains their sympathy. In conscious strength of blood-bought victory born, they stand the champions of democracy, as ground protectors from imperial greed, unurged by appetites for old world power. In new world soil 'tis theirs to sow the seed that sunned and shielded yields republic flower. Columbia's past prescribes her right to clear from Europe's sway the Western Hemisphere. Levy on Income Tax. We must have revenue without a doubt. This all agree to, and the question lies in how we'll get it and yet be most wise. Since wisdom oft in unknown guise we flout, some say protection is the only way. Perhaps it is, but to our cost we learn that those protected on ourselves oft turn and use the strength we give to dock men's pay. Some think our country should be run by fines, while others swear a revenue from wines would put the load upon the ablest backs. But after all, when all have had their say, there's but one true, one plainly honest way, but that's by levying an income tax. Shall we have peace or war? From off a bluff where swelled Montana's breast, two scenes I saw of wonderful contrast. High on my right far stretched the rolling plain, dry, cracked, forbidding, with no sign of life, save that of frighted beasts in desperate strife, fleeing the prairie fire that came amain, with clouds of smoke and yawning lurid glare. Upon my left below smiled a vale, green, fertile, sweet, protected from the gale by sloping hills, where flocks devoid of care nibbled the grassy sward. A shady spot near pleasant stream half hid the shepherd's cot. Here side by side ruled Pan and bloody Mar. The vale was peace, the plain grim-visaged war. When other leaders fail, we've read his speech. In every word we see honour stand clear and courage to the death. Love for the lowly is in every breath, and earnest purpose to spread liberty. None can confront the honest views he holds, while dreams of empire must before them fall. Leave to monarchic greed the lustful call, and trust a future that true virtue moulds. The principle of empire is a snare, wherein its advocates themselves are caught. The greed that prompts it is the same dark blot that hides from rich men when they've had their share. Let men thank God when other leaders fail. Forth comes a Brian, make the tyrants quail. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain. An Open Letter to Henry Morrison Flagler by George Graham Currie. Read for LibriVox.org by Elaine Conway, England. An Open Letter to Henry Morrison Flagler from a citizen of the east coast of Florida on the occasion of the completion of the Oversea Railway to Key West in January 1912. Dear Uncle Henry, as you're sometimes named, I write to you to convey a poet's thanks, to compensate in part the abuse of cranks, and let you know you're praised as well as blamed. Your life to us has been an open book. We've read about you and we know it all. You've had your cares that would most men appall, and erred sometimes in what you undertook. But you are human, we are proud to own, and what you've done as such is wondrous great. Who else has lived and conquered human fate, and helped his kind as by yourself you've done? 'Tis therefore pleasure in set verse to pay such homage to a hero as I may. Poor man's son, you started in the race with even chances by manual toil and constant roughing it in life's turmoil. You got the good of labour's saving grace, the strong physique, the sturdy arm and thigh, the constitution that could stand a strain, the body competent to hold great brain, and guide huge projects with unfaltering eye. Grim sorrow, too, provided from its store wholesale afflictions to enhance your power. For scarcely ever have you known an hour some recent loss you might not still deplore. By labour strengthened and by grief made true, Heaven surely signalled you had work to do. Conceiver of a plan of corporate strength, than which no greater has been ever known, your genius as an organizer then was shown, until the Standard Oil came forth at length. Child of your brain and creature of your power, it gained and grew until it waxed so strong, the nation feared it, and compelled ere long its dissolution, lest the nation cower. What greater proof could any mortal ask that his accomplishment was mighty task? But with the wealth that flowed from Standard Oil, undaunted always by a threatening sky, to Florida you turned with curious eye, and viewed a wilderness where hopes recoil. Untracked, unknown, nor seeming worth a smile, that long discovered land stretched south its arm, with none to whisper of its wealth or charm, or seek to open up its many a mile. But when you viewed its palmy covered strand, you looked and saw what no one yet had seen, and straightway, where one only blade had been, you planted two, and joined by iron band the whole peninsula into the waste. With foresight and with zeal that seemed divine, you pushed the work of progress till each sign proved to the doubting your artistic taste. And soon, where nature wild had sought repose, you made the desert blossom as the rose. Towns sprang to life where once deep jungles frowned, forests were felled and fields of pines appeared, orange groves came forth upon the hummocks, And in dank prairies gardens soon were found, cleared, men blessed with work, the highest kind of alms, grew independent at your bounteous hand. And with the waving of your magic wand, Florida, enchanted, spread abroad her balms. Now learns the world what you had brought to light, and soon behind you follow tourist hordes, whom still to please you gave what wealth afford, and beauteous homes sprang upward in a night, till as an acme to ambitious reach, out of the jungle rose to view Palm Beach. Such feat alone would give eternal fame, but still insatiate, you forward press, out from the fast improving wilderness, into Atlantic to more laurelled name, bridging the ocean for commercial ends, binding with hoops of steel Key West's fair isle, flaunting defiance at the billows' toil, and by their conquests making long amends. Surely we owe you more than tongue can tell, for what you've done to bring about our ease, giving us power, like gods, to ride wild seas in Pullmans lounging, while around yawns hell. While we've been seeking wreaths we ought to bring, you by great acts have crowned yourself our king. Not such a king as the Europeans boast, but one America is proud to own. One who requires no bolster to his throne, but who wins homage free from coast to coast. Your sceptre, likewise, is a badge of might, won by intrinsic virtue, and your sway comes without price to gild your closing day, and prove to all how well you've won its right. May years yet pass ere all your work's complete, to give us time to prove our praise sincere, and give to those afar a chance to hear, ere history embalms each wondrous feat. And on this stone, which soon or late must rise above your tomb, engraves, mid world wide size, Epitaph: Here 'neath the turf where many times he trod, lies Henry Flagler, face to face with God. How came his wealth, or what his motives were, leave we to that Most High Tribunal's care. Suffice it now that we confess our loss, and since he's gone, take up our heavier cross. He came to Florida, and with his gold changed trackless jungle into fertile wold. If he but looked, behold the noisome wild bedecked itself with green and prosperous smiled, and where fierce snakes and alligators crept, now thriving cities into life have stepped, grand, lasting monuments to that great seal which ended, robs us of our speedier weal. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain. To the White Man's God by George Graham Currie. Read for LibriVox.org by Elaine Conway, England. The dying address of Osceola, the Seminole chief, from his cell in the white man's prison at Fort Moultrie, S.C. All-powerful being from across wild sea, who guards the white man while the red man die. A prisoner fast, I needs must wait on thee, although I hate thee and thy power defy, relentless spirit of an alien race. Would that we Indians had a God so strong, then might we robbers of our birthright chase, then might we safely offer wrong for wrong. I ask no favours, as I know too well the utter hopelessness of aid from thee. Thy lack of justice e'en my birth can tell, and all my life proclaims thy cruelty. Now, as the happy hunting grounds I voice thy mandates that the world may hear, ere yet a mortal, by thy great consent, a white man lured my mother to her shame, and when rejected like cigar that's spent, into the world unwelcomely I came. My infant years among my mother's kin were hardly over, till on conquest bent, a white man's army, thy applause to win, laid waste our country with a murderous vent. Expatriated to the south we fled, far from the comforts that were once our share, into Morris's, where our daily bread was spared by red men from their scanty fare. There I grew up to married man's estate, in spite of thee and of the white man's hate. To married man's estate I grew, and lo, my happiness had made me half forget the wrongs I suffered, and the woe my people had endured and suffered yet, until backed up by thy expressed command, a white man seized my happy Creole bride, and carried her by force to other land, there as a slave to rob her of her pride. Did I protest? Well, rather, but who cared? A father's or a husband's claims were naught. And when with anger overcome I dared demand her back, in irons I was brought before the white man's chief, and forced to kneel and speak repentance that no man could feel. And then they murmured and beseeched thy aid, because, forsooth, I laid the tyrant low, while stranger still my vengeance to degrade, thy help was given to multiply our foe. And in the hunting grounds where once we passed free as the deer that nibbled in the glades, each tree belched fire, and we must stand aghast, or with a white man's army measure blades. But we were braves, by my counsel strong, we gave no quarter, but shed blood for blood. And though but 1 to 10 we rallied long, and held our own against the pale-face flood, our cause was just, and as a patriot band we chose to live or die on native land. We had been told the white man's God was just, and that the white man's act was always true. 'Twas said deception was a red man's lust, but what the white man spoke he'd surely do. This hollow boast is ever folly's bane. The white man's promise never was fulfilled, but with Wyoming in each chieftain's brain, the white man forced agreements as he willed. Finding his strength, though 10 to 1, too weak to cope with red man on their native sod, the white man chose by crooked ways to wreak an unfair vengeance that thou didst applaud, and I, who should have known from treatment past, was seized 'neath flag of truce, and here am cast. Murder, conspiracy, coercion, fraud, these are the weapons that have won the fight. Supreme in these I own the white man's God, and give him credit for his might made right. The passing red man with his free wild life is far too honest to encounter greed, such as the white man by long cherished strife has nurtured till it stares through every deed. And so, like me, my type must pass away, a sacrifice to more aggressive power. Yet in our passing from an equal fray, the future world will miss its noblest flower. And when the time is ripe, shall other race take with like cruelty the white man's face. Wyoming is the Seminole for whiskey. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain. In honor of St. Augustine, the oldest city in America, by George Graham Currie. Read for LibriVox.org by Elaine Conway, England. We fondle classic tomes, St. Augustine, to trace beginnings of your ancient seat, and through the centuries that intervene, we find the pages with great deeds replete. We see your first, an Indian town uncouth, where stalked the red man, not yet civilized, until De Leon, in his search for youth, determined where you stand was what he prized. We see you then become the white man's prey, and Europe's kings consider you a gem, and battle for possession for a day, in turn to sparkle in their diadem. First came the Spanish, then the French, and next the British held you as their prized, perplexed. For what with foes assailing from the sea, and savages harassing from the land, each occupation had a bloody plea to carve their title on your shifting sand. But times have changed, and now, St. Augustine, we find you gentle as your youth was wild. Your fought and conquered is a tourist scene. Your crumbling gates now hold the wandering child. Matanzas Bay no longer flashes fire, but offers shelter to the listless sail. Your plaza guns have rusted out their ire, yet still give credence to the idler's tale. Yes, times have changed, but greatly for the best, for now St. Augustine your name spells rest. Within your market place, where black men shook, while masters offered them for sale or hire, now lounge admirers, who around them look in dreamy wonder or poetic fire, and see your quaint old streets, where half awake a motley population hugs the wall, and muse about the changes time can make, and how peace conquers after all. Your Moorish hostelries, suggesting as they do, with eloquence the story of your past, now open wide their portals to the view, and gild the future that within is cast. We glory in the years that you have seen, and wish you many more, St. Augustine. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Ponce de Leon's Mistake by George Graham Currie. Read for LibriVox.org by Bruce Kachuk. In search of youth across the watery main, in ages past de Leon sailed from Spain. He steered his course to Florid's sunny land, where Indians, pointing to its flowery strand, assured him, "Here your search will not be vain. Rest for a while, and youth you must regain." But all too eager in his grand desire, he could not rest, he could not quench his fire. He must at once be young, lest death, the pest, should creep upon him in his idle rest. So pressing on, as others still are fain, in futile search for what by rest they'd gain, he passed at length beyond our healthful clime, and died a victim of his fire sublime. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
In the Pinewoods by George Graham Currie. Read for LibriVox.org by Phil Schempf. When sore contentions drive me from the throng of struggling humans in life's maddening din, and I am surfeited with care and sin, and fain would banish from the world its wrong, I know no happier place, no holier bourne, than in the pined woods, far from the haunt of man, where even echoes enter under ban, and I am consoled whichever way I turn. There may I wander close to nature's heart, with every pulse attuned to feel its throb. There may each sigh and passion-laden sob find silent balm to purge the cruel dart. There all inspired, I need no written word to know I pace the cloisters of the Lord. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Canada by George Graham Currie. Read for LibriVox.org by Lynda Neilson, Vancouver, BC. Loved Canada, Our Lady of the Snows, thy name, thy fame is tuned to many a lyre. Thy charms to song thy favored sons inspire, while from afar response sweet echo throws. Thou sittest on thy throne immaculate, God keep thee so, thy subjects fondly pray. Throughout thy vast dominion be thy sway, a sway of freedom spite of tyrant's threat. Be not ashamed to own thy virgin youth, it is a boast that gives thy present hour, uncurbed by course, prescribed by vested power, authority to choose the path of truth, since gold or vaunted pedigree can claim, as yet no right to rob thee of thy name. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain. Farewell by George Graham Currie. Read for LibriVox.org by Lynda Neilson, Vancouver, BC. To the Canadian contingent on their departure from Quebec for service with the British Army in the Transvaal, October 31st, 1899. Goodbye, Canadians, on far Afric's strand. You'll be the warders of a country's pride. On you, whatever good or ill betide, depends the honor of your native land. Your every act an empire's eyes will see. Upon your courage rests a people's fame. In foreign climes 'tis yours to guard a name. Blood brought on Abraham's plain, for chivalry. We wish you Godspeed all your mission through. We pray that fortune may your steps attend. Our hearts are with you in whate'er you do. We know full well our trust you will defend. Brothers, adieu! An earnest, warm adieu! In life, in death, to Canada be true. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain. Well Done by George Graham Currie. Read for LibriVox.org by Lynda Neilson, Vancouver, BC. Message from the people of Canada to their contingent in South Africa after Paardenburg and the relief of Mafeking. Well done, brave sons! Your every move we've traced. With eager eyes, through tears, we've scanned the news. You are of us, and so we could not choose But stand with you or fall at fate's behest. We knew your valor, in your veins you bear The chivalry of France, the Briton's pride, With names like Cartier or Champlain to guide, Or Brant or Brock to teach you how to dare. But never did we dream that you might do Such deeds as late have set us wild with joy, Such fearless feats, fit boast for fabled Troy, As give the palm of Paardenburg to you. We wait, impatient, till the war is o'er, To do you honor on your proud home shore. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain. Awake, My Countrymen by George Graham Currie. Read for LibriVox.org by Lynda Neilson, Vancouver, BC. Awake, my countrymen! Why longer pause? Get ready to receive with open arms Those who so readily at war's alarms Went forth to battle in our country's cause. It was their part to buffet ocean's foam, To drudge and labor through a treacherous land, Where shrubs belched fire and every rock was manned, To die if need be for their far off home. This have they done, and that they did it well, With all the vim befitting such a toil, And world-wide credit to their native soil. The empire's gratitude itself will tell. Then let us quick prepare to do our part, And bid them welcome from a nation's heart. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain. Our Hero Brothers by George Graham Currie. LibriVox.org by Lynda Marie Neilson, Vancouver, BC. Throughout the breadth of our Canadian land, let all be glad, let every home rejoice. Back to our midst have come the faithful band, whose gallant actions so approved our choice. There is no welcome that proud hearts can make will e'er repay the debt we owe these men. They fought for us on Afric's hostile plain, and gave their life blood for our country's sake. Then fill the wine cups till each brim runs o'er. Drink deep and often to the cherished toast. Our hero brothers, for through them we boast defense more certain than a wall-girt shore. Since these, her sons, as soldiers tried and true, have shown to foes what Canada can do. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain. By the Grave of Louis Riel by George Graham Currie. Read for LibriVox.org by Lynda Marie Neilson, Vancouver, BC. In the old churchyard at St. Boniface, across the Red River from Winnipeg, here lies, unmourned, the Indian half-breed's friend, the Frenchman who demanded English right, who rather than be cheated chose to fight, yet fought with those whose fain his wrongs would end. There is no doubt, rebellious though he was, his steadfast stand was for his country's good. There was a grievance, and in brother's blood he wrote the message that made safe their cause. To Manitoba and the great Northwest, his leadership through faulty was not vain. Some look upon his sowings with disdain, who reap the harvest in bad laws redressed. I see a time when history's page will tell how much we owe the rebel chief, Riel. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain. My Choice of Cities by George Graham Currie. Read for LibriVox.org by Lynda Marie Neilson, Vancouver, BC. If I were asked a city to design, which for its beauty would be world renowned, and which with such attractions would abound, that other cities it would quite outshine, I'd choose a hillside for my city's site, with other hills around to change the scene. I'd have a sea or river intervene, whose sinuous course was plain from every height. I'd have a castle or a forted isle, a storied house or two, and many a spire, with here and there a monument to fire the citizens with love of glorious toil, and as a worthy name my burg I'd call, for fair Edina, or loved Montreal. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain. To Sir Wilfrid Laurier by George Graham Currie. Read for LibriVox.org by Lynda Marie Neilson, Vancouver, BC. On the occasion of his defeat at the polls when he was fighting for a policy of commercial reciprocity between Canada and the United States, his opponents successfully fought him on the acerb bugaboo that the movement was a sinister effort on the part of the United States to bring about political annexation. World-famous Laurier, by your country blamed, because forsooth you saw too far ahead, we rise to praise you though you were not named, and mourn not you but your fair home, misled. A greater patriot never raised his voice To join together more discordant land, And for long years you were a nation's choice To lead most tactfully each cross-grained band. But now despite your tact, your silver tongue, Your years of service that were ever clean, Your tolerance of race, so seldom sung, And of religion with what that might mean, You have been sidetracked for a foolish fear, And Canada must suffer many a year. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
In Westminster Abbey by George Graham Currie. Read for LibraryVox.org by MartinW. 1. Thou venerable home of Britain's mighty dead, within thy precincts I in reverence bow, to whom I know not, yet I feel somehow dark shapes around me, and with awe I tread. Nave, transepts, chapels, corridors and choir, all speak to me of ages that are gone. About thy cloisters on the close-cropped lawn, I fancy monks still pacing with religious fire. Thy chapter house, yet eloquent, resounds and echoes with the voices of the past. Listen, while Hampden with a deathless blast warns tyrants back within their metes and bounds. Most noble pile, long mayest thou hallowed be. Science and art owe countless debts to thee. 2. Here in their last and never-ending sleep, careless alike of praise or blame they lie. Wellington dreamless that he cannot die. Nelson still drifting on unconquered deep. Hush! Is this Gladstone? And can that be Burke? Alas, how silent! They have fought their fight. So too has Wilberforce, whose forensic might struck chains from slaves and set some knaves at work. Beneath each aisle where even whispers jar, preachers and scientists at peace repose. And here and there dim effigies disclose statesmen and soldiers done, at last, with war. While on the sombre walls and foot-worn floor, legends in brass and stone great deaths deplore. 3. Newton and Jenner, Stevenson and Wren, are waiting breathless for the trump to sound. Together, Lynda and Nightingale are found, ready to prove their peers, the sex of men. Here slumbers Garrick from the footlights freed. There Bunyan tarries at the narrow gate. Darwin, grown weary, is content to wait, and leave to others what seemed his decreed. Handel is silent and no longer writes the wondrous paeans that the angels raise. The hand of Reynolds that won worldwide praise here lies inert, unmoved by fancy's flights. On every side names common as the air arrest the vision, and abashed we stare. 4. In poet's corner with touched heart I pause, for poets win our tears if any do, and first appropriately bursts to view the actor bard whose words are now our laws. The gentle Shakespeare of all poets chief, nearby a bust of Burns, he who at plough proclaims that men were men, obtains my bow. A kindly soul, his life was all too brief. Byron the Lord and Noel the doctor scribe, of Johnson and of all the world a friend. To both as tribute due I gladly bend, and own the bliss I from their verse imbibe. My wandering eyes next catch Longfellow's face, and I have learned that fame gives each his place. 5. But hold, the verger beckons and I pay, before the entrance to the royal tombs. My trifle, marvelling such ignoble dooms, kings could befall, mere wonder to allay. Around me now, whichever way I turn, grotesque contraptions teem with noble dust, imperial virtues and imperial lust, contained with surfeit in each grinning urn. Here lie the Georges, There the Edwards sleep, destroying angels through the Henrys creep. All are dead, yet, to prolong their pomp, they now are side-showed. What an awful fall! And men charge sixpence at the vulgar stall, to those who fain mid princely bones would romp. 6. But am I churlish? Even kings are men, with snares surrounding that but few would flee. That they are mortal they themselves agree, and this great abbey heralds forth the strain. 'Tis well, most truly well, here let them rest, a chill reminder that we all must die. 'Tis well, too, that the grave shuts every eye, else here a motley throng would lie distressed. Cromwell might worry Charles, and Mary's eye might look reproachfully at good Queen Bess. But they are dead, at worst they are not less. Prince, priest, or ploughman, each demand our sigh. Though high their virtue or deep dyed their sin, this touch of nature makes us all akin. 7. Thou venerable tomb of Britain's mighty dead, within thy precincts I in reverence bow, to whom I know not, yet I feel somehow God's nearer presence, and with awe I tread. Nave, transepts, chapels, corridors and choir, all speak to me of ages that are gone. About thy cloisters on the close-cropped lawn, I fancy monks still pacing with religious fire. Thy chapter house yet eloquent resounds and echoes with the voices of the past. Listen, while Hampden with a deathless blast is telling tyrants of their metes and bounds. Most hallowed pile, long mayest thou hallowed be. The wide, wide earth, I heaven, owe debts to thee. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
To Edwin H. Lemare, Organist, by George Graham Currie. Read for LibriVox.org by Jim Nienaber. To Edwin H. Lemare, Organist of St. Margaret's Church, Westminster, where the members of Britain's Parliament are supposed to attend. I chanced within St. Margaret's yesternight, a stranger saddened by the ills of life, a fugitive from self and inward strife, but proving even there a futile flight, when lo, the holy house grew great with song, and angels' voices broke upon my ear, and I forgot that I was lone and drear, and soared triumphant over every wrong. And as I listened to the magic strain that filled and thrilled me with reviving hope, what late seemed weakness with expanding scope was now a power that made all barriers vain. Thus recreated in impulsive prayer, I thanked the Eternal for thy art, Lemare. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Glasgow University by George Graham Currie. Read for LibriVox.org by Bruce Kachuk. Upon proud eminence, a stately pile, the University of Glasgow stands, and in its majesty a view commands of many a crowded, many a storied mile. Fair Wisdom's feet to lave, close by its base, the winding Calvin babbles as it falls, while on the further bank Art's treasury halls, on lower level, own their lower place. Above mere din, above the sad turmoil of those who battle but for daily bread, sits Learning's seat like crown on kingly head, on summit only reached by nobler toil. Most graceful symbol, object lesson grand, urge still to higher heights, my father's land. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
On Tara at sunrise, by George Graham Currie. Read for LibriVox.org by Giordano. Newport Richey, Florida. As I left Castleboy Cottage, my foot had a spring to it that vied with the spring obtained a few nights previous from Father Maguire's grog. The kindness of this widow woman had put me once more into countenance with myself. I even felt poetical, and as I walked along the profile of Tara, the most sacred spot in all Ireland, the realization of the privilege I was enjoying quite saturated me, and jumping over the hedge that skirted the roadside, to be out of sight of passers-by, I sat on a knoll just as the sun was rising, and composed the following sonnets. Notes of a Tramp Through Ireland. Once on a time, in ages long since sped, upon this height a royal palace stood, while all round, for many a storied rood, Ireland united knew a peace now fled. 'Twas here St. Patrick faced a heathen race, and fearless won for Christ a warring land, till careless of the laws he thoughtful planned, the very church, then nurtured, now yields place. Here, where a capital in war or peace, for wisdom was the wonder of the world, where learning's flag was dauntlessly unfurled, till Erin wore the crown once worn by Greece. Now ignorance prevails, and but the few can claim the laurels to the student due. But see, across the height the morning sun, a harbinger of hope, sheds rays around. The long night's shadows leave each moss-topped mound. New sheen is gathered on deserted throne. The stone of destiny looks bright once more. St. Patrick's well no longer teems with blood. The kingly chair, the trenches, and the wood, the grass has ceased to tell of human gore. A brighter day approaches, and again the hall of Tara half resumes its state. Nature, grown grateful, now opposes fate, and seeks to overcome Rawdon's ban. God make this sun prophetic of thy smile, soon to resparkle over the Emerald Isle. Footnote: It is claimed that the desertion and final ruin of Tara Hall was due to an ecclesiastical named St. Rawdon, who cursed the hill for some personal affront received from its occupants. End of footnote. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
To My Only Sister by George Graham Currie. Read for LibriVox.org by Lynda Neilson, Vancouver, BC. My dear old sis, who through life's fleeting years I've learned to love as I have loved but few, accept this little tribute as a due, glad offered, for the worth that so endears. In childhood often have I crossed your path. Too well I can recall each boyish prank, each dubious action that should give me rank with those who merit not your love but wrath. Yet spite of all I ever prove you kind. When others fail me you are still my friend. Your great big heart to many faults quite blind. Full credit gives when I may but intend. I knew no mother, but I found in you the compensation of a sister true. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain. Annie Besant, The Orator by George Graham Currie. Read for LibriVox.org by Lynda Neilson, Vancouver, BC. Of all the speakers I have ever met, none have I looked on with such high esteem As Annie Besant. She could quite redeem Her sex to me from being things men pet. Her voice was music from Apollo's lyre, And every word she uttered fell like gold, Rich with great thoughts expressed, while thoughts untold Seemed to surround each pause and lend it fire. Years upon years of misrepute and care Had scored her forehead and had blanched her hair. But as she warmed to what she had to say, Ennobled by her sentiments divine, Her eyes bright glistened, and a flush like wine Made her grow lovely as the dawning day. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain. Home by George Graham Currie. Read for LibriVox.org by Lynda Neilson, Vancouver, BC. Now that I know the pleasure of a home, One of my own with worldly cares shut out, Where only she I love and I may come, And where in bliss we dwell devoid of doubt. Now that I feel the atmosphere of love, So pure, so sweet, so comfortably warm, Surrounding our retreat, and lending charm That gives it likeness to the home above, I would not change my state were all the gold Of Croesus offered that it might be bought. 'Twould seem like sacrilege to even hold A moment's parley with so base a thought. The wide, wide world has not a mansion fair To tempt me from the cot she deigns to share. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain. The One I Love by George Graham Currie. Read for LibriVox.org by Lynda Neilson, Vancouver, BC. The one I love, O holy, happy thought! O balm of Gilead for each petty ill! What rapture o'er ecstatic throe can thrill Like to the rapture from these accents caught? The one I love, the one I live to please, The one whose smile dispels my darkest gloom, Whose wish makes darable the dearest doom, And transforms hardship to a life of ease. This one I love is why, when troubles come, And all the world seems but a cage of strife, When fellows slight me and loud friends grow dumb, I still have reason to be glad of life. Sahara's desert must Elysium prove, If in its confines lives the one I love. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain. Life by George Graham Currie. Read for LibriVox.org by Lynda Neilson, Vancouver, BC. Life is all asleep, and death the grand awakening. Our little night of dreams is but a speck in time. The pains, the aches, the griefs, the mares that set us quaking, Will be the sad, sweet tones in morning's merry chime. Our souls but tarry here to rest awhile from winging. Darkness and mist and fog succeed each glorious day. But from the sleep of life, while funeral bells are ringing, The wake to toils divine, and leave their cots of clay. Eternal is the eye, and flesh is merely dressing, a gown the eye puts on for cover during sleep. Misfits and shoddy cloth some sleepers are distressing, yet 'tis for but one night the tortured eye need weep. For when the night is o'er and day is breaking, we'll all arise renewed by death's awaking. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain. Death by George Graham Currie. Read for LibriVox.org by Lynda Neilson, Vancouver, BC. O Death, thou great unknown, thou open door, beyond whose threshold darkness reigns supreme, thou cave of silence, thou cold black stream, thou trackless ocean that no sails explore, thou rushing whirlwind that around us blows, thou distant rumbling that will never end, to life the fiercest foe, the dearest friend, thou sleep eternal of unmixed repose. Pacific billows have their rocky bound, white Alpine summits we can see at whiles. White Alpine summits we can see at whiles. Sahara's desert is described in miles, and heaven's azure may not long confound. But thou art limitless. I love thee, Death. Thy matchless power compels my perfect faith. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain. Sympathy by George Graham Currie. Read for LibriVox.org by Lynda Neilson, Vancouver, BC. Fair floweret, blooming where no gardener strays, the one pure spark that makes mankind divine, the pearl that is not thrown away on swine. Sweet sympathy, inspirer of immortal lays, thou touch of nature that proves all earth kin, that urges poets sing the daisy's praise, that points the sluggard to the ant's wise ways, and whispers to the sportsman, "This is sin." Make thou thy home within my warring breast. Teach me to love my neighbor as myself. I fain would do, with greater, truer zest, the deeds that are not brought with vulgar pelf. Be thou my guide when shame-tossed brothers cry, that I may share the load that makes them sigh. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain. Solitude by George Graham Currie. Read for LibriVox.org by Lynda Neilson, Vancouver, BC. My ministering angel, Solitude, to whose soft arms in every cross I fly, who, with thy silent sympathetic eye, can soothe, can calm my fiercest ache or mood. Thou art my mistress true, my soul of glee. With thee I languish in ecstatic throe. With thee I share the sweetest joys I know, and none can satisfy my heart like thee. Thou art my mother, on thy gentle breast I lie in perfect everlasting rest. Outside the world may jar and fret and stray, but all its wrangle seems so far away. When I'm with thee, I would not have it cease, for it is then a lullaby of peace. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain. Mock Modesty by George Graham Currie. Read for LibriVox.org by Lynda Neilson, Vancouver, BC. Begone, mock modesty! I hate thy sight. Get thee behind me to thy father's arms. Let Satan fold thee with thy sickly charms close to his breast. Away, incestuous sprite! Thy lurid hue real modesty has dimmed. Thy cephalic sores spread odor on the wind, and thy pretence 'tis sweet gull's weakling mind, till straight the fool thy murderous breath has hymned. Get thee behind me, thou shalt never hear me sing thy praises when I know thee fool. I've seen too many by thy hidden dart into the grave of fallen truth depart. Let innocence beware such leprous ghoul. Mock modesty the path to hell sweeps clear. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain. Cruelty by George Graham Currie. Read for LibriVox.org by Lynda Neilson, Vancouver, BC. O God, how vile a thing is ingrate man, that crushes timid violet under foot, and plucks the scented daisy by the root, and robs from budding rose its little span of life. How heartless must he be who can, with cruel unrelenting eye and aim, intend the songster of the field to maim, that he may boast his skill to sportive clan, and yet 'tis done with heedless hue and cry. No conscience chidds a sport in search of game. Men shed the bloom of flowers unwittingly, nor dream that they are guilty or to blame, while he who rails at these can cause the sigh of those he dearly loves, yet feel no shame. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain. Remorse by George Graham Currie. Read for LibriVox.org by Lynda Neilson, Vancouver, BC. Dead? Is he dead? Oh, heavy, heavy blow! That leaves me helpless on an ocean vast, and mocks my torture to redeem the past, and steeps my soul in bitter galling woe. Why was I blind? My foolish fault was plain, but pride, the serpent, poised my upturned nose, and urged me on the sinful path I chose, though every step stabbed through and through his brain. And now he's dead, and though heart's blood I sweat, though out my soul is poured in guilty tears, hollow useless is each late regret. The changeless past must haunt all future years. O spectre grim, henceforth on duty's course, thou sure wilt keep my straying feet. Remorse. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain. Poverty by George Graham Currie. Read for LibriVox.org by Lynda Neilson, Vancouver, BC. Grim poverty, and yet methinks not grim. Cruel, and yet not cruel after all. Since he who, loving, views the sparrow's fall, with poverty renews my virtue's vim. Grim poverty, experience calls thee grim, and shudders when it sees the haggard eye, that eloquently speaks a living lie, and calls what God thought best a cruel whim. But after all, despite the threadbare coat, despite the unshorn head, the pallid brow, behold the downcast look, and you will note that vanity has fled despondence slough, while fruits like sympathy and prudence wise prove poverty a blessing in disguise. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain. Travel by George Graham Currie. Read for LibriVox.org by Lynda Marie Neilson, Vancouver, BC. Travel, though alma mater, in whose school we learn the dearest lessons of our life, whose influence gives breadth to bigot fool, and makes the wit as sharp as cobbler's knife. The youthful mind attracted by thy smile expands the more it sees of thee, while sober age finds in thy door the key to solace from life's worry, work, and wile. Thou art nirvana when we're crazed with care. Thy changing scene plays havoc with despair upon thy stage, whose curtain never falls until dark death the watcher's eye enthralls. We view the world that God to man has given, that world which seen we've loth to leave for heaven. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain. Odysseys by George Graham Currie. Read for LibriVox.org by Lynda Marie Neilson, Vancouver, BC. Odysseys, famous child of dreamer's brain, my arm personified in thee I find. Like thee I fain to threatening fates be blind, and for thy laurels I endure all pain. Besides the honours, wealth is but a glare, outshining conscience and enhancing vice, since he who thinks vain gold the highest choice becomes its slave and shuns a hero's care. Loved wanderer, thou man of many woes, whom poets hope conceived and set on foot, to conquer after long and strange pursuit, the ills that man had thought o'erwhelming foes. When on my bed of death I view my past, may retrospect like thine be mine at last. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain. Heroism by George Graham Currie. Read for LibriVox.org by Lynda Marie Neilson, Vancouver, BC. The hero soul is not so much the man who preaches courage till its need has come, and then fear palsied stands inert and dumb, till golden opportunity grows wan. Nor yet is he true hero who by chance, not choice, fills up the bloody yawning gap, And who would fain have fled the fearful trap, had fate been kind and warned him with a glance. But when we meet a man of modest power, who knows 'tis danger that he reckless braves, yet takes no thought of death or after gain, but plunges in, one object to attain, and as a Saviour breast tempestuous waves, we've met a hero in that crowded hour. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain. Love by George Graham Currie. Read for LibriVox.org by Lynda Neilson, Vancouver, BC. We use the name of love to suit mere whim. Sometimes we mean desire, oft fascination, respect perhaps, esteem or admiration, and reverence in the guise of love we hymn. Such whims are idle, love should not be called, for thought so small, so limited in reach. If these were all combined, we then might teach the combination to be love enthralled. True love is free, the wide surrounding skies cannot confine this heaven engendered power. Yet if they pay its price, self-sacrifice, the sad, the gay, may gain it in a day, while men may prove they love within that hour, that they can bless what has despised their sighs. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Forgiven by George Graham Currie. Read for LibriVox.org by Jim Nienaber. A load was lifted from my aching heart. Where all seemed dark, new light began to shine. Aromas that I could not half define around me gathered and healed every smart. She I had loved, but who had since grown cold. For what I know not, yet I was to blame. In dreams unbidden to my bedside came, and once again love's tender story told. I did not speak, I only held her tight. I dared not trust my ecstasy to words. The mount of ice, the wall of bristling swords that had grown up between had vanished quite. And as I heard her benedict, forgiven, I knew the rapture of the Christian's heaven. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain. Patriotism by George Graham Currie. Read for LibriVox.org by Jim Nienaber. Thou weather talk of politicians, hail! Thou never failing cloak for statesmen's wiles, thou burst of eloquence that hides dark spoils, great patriotism, attend the muses' wail. So often art thou sung in crowded mart, the grand excuse of bloody, grasping crime, that now thy name, once sweet as vesper chime, is warning sound to watch for hidden dart. I have grown chary of the patriot's zeal, nor can I quite determine if 'tis real, since clothed so oft in demagogic dress. One test of whether we are home's true friend, and really eager all its ills to end, is, do we help our neighbor in distress? End of poem. This recording is in the public domain. Science by George Graham Currie. Read for LibriVox.org by Jim Nienaber. Stand, science! Be not overbold and vain. We owe thee praises, but not all our praise. We own that but for thee, our dragging days would still be spent in caves along the main. We own that by thy aid, our years yet few are multiplied in deeds, if not in hours, that now by hints from thee our human powers grow godlike, and we rise to higher view. But if we owe thee this, we still have cause to fear the sweeping inroad of thy laws. And though thy truths have dimmed the spirit fires that thrilled the breasts of bludgeon-wielding sires, yet matter is not all, and back we turn, glad that the spirit fires still dare to burn. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain. Truth by George Graham Currie. Read for LibriVox.org by Jim Nienaber. Truth, thou art vague, and must we say unreal, when we look at thee with our human eyes, through prejudices born of friendship's ties, and all the colors that before us steal. And yet we love thee. When we see thy shade, we recognize in it great heaven's sign, and that thou art the weapon most divine, with which the foes of progress low are laid. We fain would have thee parted from the dross, that claims thy kinship as its right to life, yet with that life would wield the ingrate knife, and nail its boasted kinsman on a cross. Dawn, Truth, triumphant over every evil, reveal thyself, and shame usurping devil. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain. History by George Graham Currie. Read for LibriVox.org by Jim Nienaber. History, to thee we bow on bended knee. Thou art so true, inexorable, just. Thou hast no appetite, and if one lust, it is the fall of empires to decree. Stranger than fiction o'er thy teeming page, while yet untutored our young eyes have pored, imbibing thoughts by which thy tale is stored of righteous hope to feed our thinking age. Thou telescope through which a mortal eye may peer and see the future plainly bared, thou patriot's armory where we espy pride-raising daggers and the deeds they dared. With reverence we hail thy frosted youth, and love thee, history, as man's test of truth. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain. Consistency by George Graham Currie. Read for LibriVox.org by Jim Nienaber. Consistency, 'tis said thou art a jewel. I doubt it, for I've failed to see thy sheen. Thou hast no flashes of the diamond keen. The opal's changing hues near thee are cruel. Thou art more truly called a monument, a picture of the unprogressive past, a landmark or historical contrast, but not a jewel. That name I must resent. Consistent men are men who, in their youth, make childish vows and keep them until death, who close their eyes to glorious dawning truth, and laud old follies with their latest breath. Men who mount each day from high to higher must burn consistence on the dead past's pyre. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Friendship by George Graham Currie. Read for LibriVox.org by Bruce Kachuk. Friendship, true test of honest human worth, not found in heaven, for heaven cements with love, and yet conceived and nurtured from above. Thou art a precious gift from heaven to earth, the common prize of life's Olympic game. Who do the greatest feats get most of thee? But woe to him, poor wretch, who finds no key to luck, since lack of thee steeps deep in shame. E'en he who wins thee is not all secure, for when he thinks he has thee by the hip, and careless grows, the prize begins to slip, till when quite gone, no feat again can lure. And if once lost, the loser, doubly drear, groans 'neath his loss, and groaning proves thee dear. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain. Odd Fellowship by George Graham Currie. Read for LibriVox.org by Bruce Kachuk. We've been in darkness, and we've been in chains. We've viewed together what our end shall be. We've learned the lesson of mortality, and age has taught us what are life's true gains. We've seen how merit causes envious wrath, and how occasion oft calls forth a friend, who sometimes chooses by a shaft to send the word that warns us out of danger's path. Ah, yes, and sometimes we have been assailed and even worsted in unequal strife, till left with nothing but a wasting life, a real friend succored after false friends failed, and thus as brothers by three links uncouth, we're bound in friendship and in love and truth. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain. Let us have unlimited arbitration, Roosevelt to the contrary notwithstanding. By George Graham Currie. Read for LibriVox.org by Bruce Kachuk. Shall arbitration take the place of war? Yes, surely, if we value human life. If civilization would abolish strife, we must perforce the battlefield abhor. To ask such question is to place in doubt the well-gained certainty that strife is crime. Even the duellist is behind the time, and all his talk of honor Christians flout. A nation's honor has no special plea. Indeed, 'tis wanting if maintained by might. The noblest nation has most chivalry, and gives to weaker nations every right. That cause is just that fails of war to prate, but offers boldly, let us arbitrate. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
The Miracle of Birth by George Graham Currie. Read for LibriVox.org by Giordano. Newport Richey, Florida. Now she is great with child. Was ever thought so full of promise, yet so full of dread? The very rays that round about are shed become the daggers that with fear are fraught. Think of the pleasure of a baby sweet, calling me parent, and by me made glad, mine in the image, be it good or bad, to guide in conquest where I met defeat. Think, too, the chances that to give it birth, one who is dearer than 1,000 such, will take, yet taking does it very much, as though in sacrifice to greater worth. I dare not utter what my hopes dictate, lest in the utterance I am felled by fate. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Shall the Mothers Vote by George Graham Currie. Read for LibriVox.org by Sarah Brown. October 10, 2018, Essex Junction, Vermont. God bless mankind's mothers and strengthen their hand. May their wishes be law throughout our wide land. For services rendered and selflessness shown, there's naught we can do that can ever atone. God bless mankind's mothers and give them their due, and everything else for which they may sue. There are numberless actions of mercy and love, uncredited to them truth ventures to prove. God bless mankind's mothers and offer them fair, nor cheapen our praises with hot blatant air. If they ask for the vote, they know what is best. It should be man's pleasure to grant their request. If ever a class has earned suffrage's right, our mothers have earned it ere we saw the light. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
The Hague Tribunal by George Graham Currie. Read for LibriVox.org by Giordano. Newport Richey, Florida. The Hague Tribunal, though but weakling now, and far from perfect as it yet shall be, is still the prototype, will soon agree, of that great court where heavenly suitors bow. Before its bar world troubles will be tried, of such importance that the nations all will breathless wait to hear the judgment fall. And even the loser will forget his pride. Its fiat shall go forth, established law, and every land shall straightway back it up. One nation's honor shall not weigh a straw, if the tribunal rules to drink the cup. And as the court takes form, lo, war shall cease, and earth shall live in universal peace. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain. The world is my country. To do good is my religion. By George Graham Currie. Read for LibriVox.org by Giordano. Newport Richey, Florida. 1. The world is my country, and proudly I sing the praises that to it I owe. It is right that I boast of its limitless size and might, since proof of these boasts it is needless to bring. No other fair land, wheresoever it be, can compare with mine for its beauty and sheen, for its wonderful verdure, its various scene, its wealth stored in mine, meadow, forest, and sea. My countrymen, too, the most numerous are, and of enemies really I have not got one, for I have a privilege none may debar, of calling my brother all under the sun. So why, as world citizen, should I not feel the broadest, the noblest of patriots' zeal? 2. To do good is my religion, this I profess, without being conscious of any schism or creed. My hope's not based on my belief, but on my deed. My pleasure is gauged by the numbers I can bless. When differing zealots fill their land with strife, and preaching peace go forth in bloody war, I ask no questions, but in stealth deplore, and seek to save the unprotected life. I tolerate each shade of thought and thank the skies, that men have varying thoughts of what surrounds. It should please all that in the world variety abounds. As from the sum of all such thought we may grow wise, the golden rule is still my guide in weal or woe, and over all life's shams love's veil I throw. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain. Up in an Aeroplane by George Graham Currie. Read for LibriVox.org by Giordano. Newport Richey, Florida. 1. Up in an aeroplane, piercing the sky, riding the cloudlets and diving through space, braving the hurricane's maddening chase, as higher up higher I eagerly fly. Up in an aeroplane, leaving below all of life's care, and its sin and its shame. No one to question me, no one to blame. Here I am free from the world and its woe. Up in an aeroplane, high o'er the throng, vying with larks in my untrammeled flight, gliding on moonbeams into the night, soaring aloft on a billow of song. Up in an aeroplane, birdman on wing, who will deny me the right thus to sing? 2. Up in an aeroplane, conquering fate, laughing in earnest at Darius Green, he who first tried out the flying machine, showing him how he might catch up to date. Up in an aeroplane, searching death's lair, coasting the rainbows, encircling the stars, coquetting with Venus, sparring with Mars, scaling grim heights of unlimited air. Up in an aeroplane, what can annoy? With freedom to make even freedom more free, and just risk enough to add some spice to the glee. What is there, pray, to belittle my joy? Up in an aeroplane, birdman on wing, who will deny me the right thus to sing? End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
To Francis Angevine Currie by George Graham Currie. Read for LibriVox.org by phone. To Francis Angevine Currie, alias the Banzai, alias my son and heir. They tell me, youngster, that you look like me, and in the telling I am flattered quite, and yet I recognize that they are right, for as I'm seen, myself in you I see. But I am hoping that away within the likeness lessens and you are yourself, an ego struggling, spite of blood or pelf, or another drawback, your own spurs to win. Distinct, original, complete, alone, I'd have you battle for your worldly place. Carve out a future that will quite atone for what your dreamy father failed to trace. Live nobly ever, be life short or long. Be kind, keep pure, and what you build, build strong. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain. To My Baby Daughter by George Graham Currie. Read for LibriVox.org by phone. Dear little namesake of Shakespearean maid, Margaret Imogen, bud of love and hope, whose coming gave me heart and power to cope with foes unyielding that no longer jade. Renewed in morals by thy coming too, I feel the call to set example fair, so that my precept may be more than air, and as you prove it, keep you pure and true. Shy little damsel, may your shyness still guard your sweet innocence while life shall last. May modesty enshrined hold harm aghast, and give you passport where your love may will. And when you're gathered to the life to come, may tears of those you've helped keep green your tomb. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain. To Richard Currie Chillingworth by George Graham Currie. Read for LibriVox.org by phone. This sonnet is inscribed in consideration of being made my namesake. Bright little wanderer from the starry sky, who fell upon us in the dead of night, to conquer, captivate, and charm us quite, and make us ponder of your home on high. Would that we could upon this earthly plain still keep you pure and innocent as now, free from the cares that score the aging brow, and ever ready to grace heaven again. But earth is earth, and so we cannot hope to hold you as you now are free from guile. We can but labor to deserve your smile, and teach you how you best with foes may cope. Then if it chances you win spurs and fame, we'll share the laurels of your honored name. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain. Assassination of McKinley by George Graham Currie, read for LibriVox.org by phone. The Major gone, our President laid low, martyred to freedom in this freeman's land, slain by a weapon in a weakling's hand, while a whole nation mourns in mighty woe. Dead, but still living in his people's hearts, still quick and active in the laws he planned, living in echoes from unprospered marts, from homes made happy by his guiding hand. Yes, though we've placed him in the silent tomb to wander listless through the realms of night, his voice, still resonant, defies such doom. Hark, hear it calling in the cause of right. Though envious error took our country's head, we'll long owe homage to McKinley dead. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain. To My Mistress's Eyebrow by George Graham Currie, read for LibriVox.org by phone. With all due thanks to Shakespeare for suggesting a subject, this sonnet is an acrostic to the lady in whose honor it is written. Bless the man who in life's fleeting span e'en once may see brows delicate as thine, all ills forgot in that inspiring wine. The skies wax lovely since their sweep shows plan. Rainbows assume new beauty to the gaze, in each soft arch a glimpse of thee is seen. Could struggling artist on his heaven's queen engraft thy lashes, he might live always. Can men then marvel that I now profess a pleasure boundless as the rolling sea, in gazing while I may quite greedily write at bright vision that might many bless? No, naught in nature could refuse such glance, such penciled curves would make a Satyr dance. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain. Lily and the Angel by George Graham Currie, read for LibriVox.org by phone. An Allegory. Once on a time, many ages ago, there lived in this world of ours a strange race, not gods, not fairies, but as wonderful, possessed of great beauty and strength, yet slaves, weak slaves to their own pleasures and passions. They had many divine powers, but alas, nothing has survived of them save names, vain, spectral names, to tell of long gone glory. Still, the objects to which these names are given suggest to us, somewhat vaguely 'tis true, the attributes of those who used to bear them. Earth imprisoned by winter. Among this race so introduced there lived a young and beautiful princess named Earth, and this lovely lady, tradition says, was once imprisoned by one called Winter. Winter, although old and hoary-headed, was a tyrant cold as he was cruel, and Earth was bound hand and foot before him, because forsooth she had shunned his approach, and had scorned his impotent advances. But happily in all times innocence has ever had admirers not only among low creatures of lust but also among those who are high and virtuous. And so while fair Earth was in durance vile, there came to the neighborhood a gallant young noble, handsome and courageous. His name was Spring, a son of one, King Sol, the most powerful monarch of those times. And being the very flower of chivalry, he no sooner heard of Earth's sorry plight than he determined to be her champion. He could not see her whom he would rescue, for the jealous old churl had concealed her, but he could hear her sighs and her moanings, and distress never fails to excite the brave. Earth became the bride of Spring. Then it was Winter was assailed by Spring, and at length forced to flee in disorder, leaving within his now ruined castle Princess Earth as the prize of the victor, When the maiden beheld her deliverer, she was grateful as freed maiden might be. While spring, newly seeing her beauty, in turn, became a captive, for first love's ardor is a chain binding loved one and lover together, and if the love is returned, such a chain as enfetters forever. This was the case with spring, and his captor, sweet earth, listened with no unwilling ear to words that made both lives happy. At last, in the fullness of time, when, as always, true love had increased the wooer's courage, and made the wooed more lovely, they were wed. It is needless to tell the rejoicing, congratulations, feasting, and pleasure, that the wide, wide realm indulged when its prince led his well-won bride to the nuptial bower. Nor need we tell of the blessings then showered upon the distinguished pair, all joined in wishing them Godspeed. The very birds and the flowers and the brooks and the meadows scattered music and fragrance about them. The birth of Lily, Pansy, and Rose. It was of this union, tradition says, 3 daughters were born at one birth, Lily, Pansy, and Rose, as like as babes could be, and as fair as their beautiful mother. Their early life, as might be imagined, was one long sunny day. On every hand they were praised both for their birth and beauty. Whatever they desired was given to them, while courtiers studied to arouse new whims, that they might thus have greater power to please. So the years passed, and, as their childhood fled, pursued by dainty girlhood's halcyon days, lovers from every clime throughout the world began to flock around the sisters fair, to bow and smile and woo. But maids much sought are long impervious to the sighs of love, and many beaux retired with heavy hearts to give their luckless place to comers new. The Wooing of Rose by Summer. But Cupid never sleeps. Though long repulsed, he bides his time and gathers strength with years, and when we laugh at scars, our foolish jest is oft the shaft that, spent, leaves us unarmed. 'Tis then, all wakeful, that the god of love, with faultless aim, lays low our erring pride. Rose was the first to feel the feathery dart. A prince called Summer from adjacent realm, with warm and generous impulse and a smile so winsome that it seemed a breath from heaven, quite fascinated her. Yet, truth to tell, his smile was not reserved for her alone, a fact perhaps that made the joy more sweet when he at times did pay her special court. And as she gazed upon him day by day, her early fascination turned to love, and with her love she was recreated. Hour after hour she would think of Summer, of his ardor and generosity, of the brilliance even of his anger, of his gay excesses, his ready vows, his fickleness ere e'en her back was turned, till she loved his very faults, and, girl-like, would trace the links binding faults to virtues. Oh, he was an ideal prince, she thought, and, in order to attract his glances, she became what she thought he would admire, voluptuously soft, surpassing fair, prodigal of her charms and smiles and sighs, until each vagrant zephyrous wind that blew carried abroad some whisper of her sweets. For a time, as queen of every revel, all suitors turned to court her mantling cheeks, her dreamy eyes, her crimson lips, her chin, absolute among its dimples, her curls, hiding behind their golden veil a neck, white and swelling to tempestuous breasts, where little storms of passion always raged, and as all wooed, their wooing sang her praise. Prince Summer, with the rest, confessed her queen, and sought the charms she was so glad to yield, till with his tight embraces and his kiss, in very ecstasy, she ofttimes swooned. But love unchecked soon burns itself to naught. A few short fleeting months and Summer tired, and left Rose drooping with her graces gone, for on the waves of passion that he raised were borne away the beauties he admired. Within each clinging kiss her soul escaped, her gushing lifeblood oozed with every sigh. A wreck, still loving to the very last, she hoped and pined and hoped he might return. But woe, alas, no single charm was left that she might flaunt to bring him back again. With reckless prodigality of love, she had forgot to guard against such chance, so when deserted she could not but die. The Wooing of Pansy by Autumn. About the time when Rose was at her best, Miss Pansy met a prince who waked her love. His name was Autumn, and he too had come, a suitor to the court for beauty famed. He was of dignified and stately mould, his noble aspect won respect from all. Learning was written on his ample brow, while in his every act high birth appeared. He knew his worth and held himself aloof, nor joined the noisy revel of the court. His careful conduct thus conspicuous grew, and soon attracted Pansy to his claims. And as she daily scanned his measured mien, within her breast a secret pleasure dawned, and she would think for hours about his glance. His studied smile came to her in her dreams. She saw that he was cold to outward view. She saw, and knew 'twas pride that made him cold. But yet his very pride was so select, she argued to herself 'twas pride she loved. Around it all ideal virtues bloomed, within his eye she fancied hidden truth. His very silence proved him wisdom's fount, his coldness seemed to tell of lasting love. And so, while gushing Rose dispensed her sweets with lavish recklessness on all who came, more modest Pansy like her prince waxed proud, and masked her beauties from the common crowd. Yet in her girlish heart love's ardor glowed, perhaps more fiercely since it was restrained. Confined affection like a furnace burns, and more intensely burns the more confined. But stately Autumn only knew its strength when he at length relaxed his stately pride, and at her feet like earnest lover wooed, and vowed his preference for her dainty charms. When they were wed, dark Pansy went to live with Autumn in his rich ancestral halls. And for a time her woman's heart was glad, with conquest of a prince so great and grand. But time flew by as time is wont to fly, when we are happy that our goal is gained, till now it seemed to Pansy Autumn changed, or else 'twas she herself, she was not sure. At all events his dignity increased, the stateliness that once had been her joy grew more impenetrable, all her art, which was not much, for she was also proud, quite failed to thaw his everlasting frost. A woman's life is nothing without love, aye, more than nothing, 'tis an aching void. She hungers for the smile, the gentle word, the accent whispering that she is approved. And when it comes not, lo, the past seems sham, the present mocks her and the future palls. Love, tender love, is woman's one success. Take that away and she has failed indeed. So Pansy found, and yet she would not show the canker gnawing at her inmost heart, and thus estranged and lone she drooped and died, and like her sister filled an unkept grave. Lily and the Angel. Now only Lily lived, her parents' balm, the last attraction of a once gay court. Her sisters in their day had seemed to lead. Fair Rose's beauty and dark Pansy's grace had flashed and hidden Lily's steadier sheen, while she herself had yielded to their lead and paid them tribute as of higher worth. She loved them both so dearly that her care was ever to enhance their happy lot. 'Twas Rose or Pansy that was wooed, not she. She always claimed the suitors bowed to them, and in her quiet way she did her best to make their claims more pleasing than her own, till to the thoughtless throng it really seemed that what meek Lily said indeed was true. And yet she was not wholly unbeloved. In fact the truest homage came to her. Had she so wished she might have all outshone, and been the sun round which the whole court moved. But she was fair in heart as well as form. Her love of virtue was for virtue's sake. Her generous impulse had no selfish spur, nor was her modesty the bloom of pride. She in her early girlhood once had seen, while gazing awestruck into heaven's blue, the vision of an angel white and pure, whose every movement had a holy grace. 'Twas then, that as she saw his tender eyes, his golden curls, his flowing spotless garb, her childish heart first opened and she felt a waking wonder if he came for her. But even as she hoped the vision passed into the heavens and left her wondering. Had she been sleeping? Was it all a dream? Who was the stranger with the tender eye? How came he yonder? Was he really there? These were the questions that had her confused, as still she peered into the eternal dome, expectant. but the azure depths of sky baffled her hopes by their unchanging hue, and at length she was forced to leave the place. But as she did she went a new-made girl. Days, weeks, and months passed by, but ever fresh within her heart was fixed that heavenly form. And as she since had done her daily tasks, she often felt that vision looking down, and would look quickly up in confidence, to catch again the halo of that glance. Thus was she kept exempt from many a sin, for with her recollection of that form, with all its white perfection in her mind, pride could not gain an entrance to her soul, and without pride or follies born of pride, nothing exists that is not true and good. One day, having made a great sacrifice, in order to please one of her sisters, and having met rebuff for her kind art, she stole away into a quiet part of the court garden to have a good cry. It was while the salt tears were trickling down, and she was sore at heart, that she looked up, and behold, she saw the angel. This time he was nearer to her. His radiant form seemed transparent, it was so clean and holy, and as he turned toward her, the dark clouds that had been hovering above broke clear into 1,000 white fleecy wool packs, and through the gilt edge fissures burst the sun, for in the angel's countenance was enshrined beneficence ineffable. He smiled, as Lily stretched her fevered hands toward him, and seemed to hesitate as though to speak, before he slowly vanished from her sight. This second coming was the certain proof that her vision was no idle dreaming. Lily went from the spot re-sanctified, with even firmer purpose in her life. She felt purified by but the vision of one so pure, and only purity of a higher order could win her respect. Summer and autumn and all the others suffered beside the graces of the angel, and hence Lily, though she grew more lovely and lovable, remained free and heart whole. Yet not quite free, for in her heart of heart, too sacred to be even put in words, was a trembling hope that perhaps some day, some happy day far, far ahead, she might become worthy of even the angel. So years slipped by, her sisters passed away, but still a virgin Lily went about, doing good. Many times she caught glimpses of her ideal gathering strength thereby. 'Twas this very strength, this growing virtue, that was her never-failing attraction. Many hearts sighed in secret for her love, as she sighed for the love of the angel. But restrained by their inferior life, there were none who dared brook her rejection. But earnest faithful hearts reap their reward. Long years of silent selfless love speak loud. The angel who had watched her saw her rise above the passions of her lower sphere. He saw her grow more lovely day by day, her fragrance reached him even in the sky. Until at last his heart was also touched, and he made vow to woo her up on high. So when again within the garden fair, sweet Lily walked with constant upturned gaze, he stood revealed so close that she might hear the rustle of his garment as he breathed. The pleasure of his nearness was so great, she fell adorning at his shining feet. But stooping down, he gently raised her up, to stand beside him as his honored peer, then kissed her as a seal of sainted life, and bore her up to heaven an angel's bride. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain. End of Sonnets by George Graham Currie.